All right, our live stream has started. We still are not ready to call the meeting to order. We're at 6:01. I know clocks can be a little odd. We are still short for our quorum. So we do not yet have enough members to begin our meeting. But it is 6:01, so we'll hang tight just for a few more minutes and see if we can get those final few people in that we need. Again, watches can be funky. Traffic has also been really weird all across the county today. Accidents on Route 8, accidents on Price's Fork. So want to give people the same grace that we all gave each other when we had those tornadoes, those really scary tornado warnings going on. So we'll just hang tight for a little bit. All right, we are at 6:05. We have had no one else join our meeting. We do not have a quorum, even with adjustments for like our student who has rolled off and things like that. We do not have a quorum to start our meeting. I see Stacy's hopped on. Stacy is not a committee member. She's an MCPS representative and does not count towards my dogs. And I'm a single puppy mom today, so they're just living their best lives back there. So we're at a pretty odd place where we can't have our organizational meeting. We can't vote on a chair or a vice chair or a secretary or a meeting schedule because we don't have a quorum of our membership gathered in order to do those things. So I am willing to hang on 6:06 Does everybody agree to 3 more minutes? And at that point, we will address again. Okay, thanks for being so patient. It's a beautiful day. Beautiful day. All right, we have one more on. Diane, will you remind me? Did both of our students, one rolled off, but one resigned? Yes. Okay, great. So we can move forward with 8, 15, half, plus 1, because you need more than 50%. So we're good. All right. So good evening, members of the Gifted Advisory Committee.
Sorry. So how are you figuring? I thought we still had 16 members on the committee. Actually, I thought we had 17, but I saw the new membership. I think we have 17.
Ms. Church resigned.
Yes.
She resigned. So
Yes.
that takes you to 16.
That takes us to 17.
Okay.
Doesn't
you know, we don't need to argue about it. If you don't feel like we're at a quorum to hold this meeting, then we can adjourn the meeting and do some communication with the group to move forward.
I'm just asking how you're figuring the numbers. That's all I'm asking.
So I've got this list.
I want to make sure it's correct, you know.
I've got the list. Lori Church resigned. One student rolled off naturally. One student, I think we need to provide grace for students. Like, do they need to do an official resignation letter, or is just telling Diane that they can't serve anymore? I think we have to have some grace there for them. So I mean, I counted this 5 ways backwards and forwards. I've got 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 15 divided in half, 7.5. We need more than 50%, which is at 8. We have 8, now 9 with Cheryl Burrow-Graves. Now 9 people of the committee on board. How do you feel?
Good, thank you.
Okay. So with that clarification, good evening, members of the Gifted Advisory Committee and those who are watching on our live stream. Thank you for your patience as we waited for a quorum of our meeting to be assembled. I understand that some of our committee has left their cameras off. So just real quick, I'm going to roll through who's on board for the purposes of the live stream. We have Anna Vigian on our stream today. We also have Emily Loda, Na Ren, Julie Kamensky, Terry Evangelos, Cheryl Burrow-Graves, Julie Stanley, Amy Gurin, Carrie Weatherspoon, and then we also have Diane Neff, Marty Graham, Barbara Wickham, and Stacy Wright from our MCPS representatives. I thank you to Diane for agreeing to serve as secretary of the meeting. I'm going to go ahead and share the meeting agenda, which is hiding from me. we go. You guys all should have gotten a copy of this in your email. Our first order of business is adopting an agenda. Are there any questions about the agenda tonight before we move forward with that? Sounds great. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
I'll motion it.
Thank you so much. Is there a second?
I'll second it. This is Carrie Witherspoon.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Fantastic. Our next item of business is the election of your officers. We do not have a slate of officers for this meeting, so it will look a little bit different than the meeting we had before. As a result, I will ask for nominations from the floor. If the nomination comes from someone who does not self-nominate, I will ask the person if they accept the nomination. Once all nominations for a single position are received, we will vote on each position individually. I will conduct a roll call vote for each position. It will not be in any order. It's my little list here, so please forgive me. It's not in alphabetical order or anything like that, but that'll help both Diane and I keep up with it. Diane, it is the same as the membership listing, if that's helpful for you. I thank you in advance for your patience as we tally those votes at the end of the motions. For clarification, I am not a member of the Gifted Advisory Committee and will not be voting. I am only here temporarily to leave the meeting. I'll continue with the organizational process and then hand the meeting over to the chair once we conclude the component. My dogs have a lot to say. Does anyone wish to nominate themselves or someone else as chair for the Gifted Advisory Committee?
I'm willing to be the chair of the committee or nominate myself for the chair.
Sounds great. We have a nomination for Emily Loda as chair of the committee. Are there any additional nominations for the chair? Okay, we have one nomination. Is there any discussion regarding this candidate for the chair of the committee? All right, we'll move forward with the roll call vote. Just for purposes of record, the vote will be to approve Emily Loda as chair of the Gifted Advisory Committee. Anna Vigian,
Yes.
Emily Loda,
Yes.
Na Ren, come back. Julie Kamensky,
Yes.
Terry Vangelos,
Yes.
Cheryl Burrell Gray,
Yes.
Julie Stanley,
Yes.
Amy Gurin,
Yes.
Carrie Weatherspoon,
Yes.
Na Ren. We'll count that one as not present at vote, Diane. And congratulations, Emily. You are now the chair of the Gifted Advisory Committee. Does anyone wish to nominate themselves or someone else as vice chair for the Gifted Advisory Committee? I don't think he's qualified. Okay.
This is Anna. I'm willing to do it.
All right. Anna Vigian has nominated herself as vice chair of the Gifted Advisory Committee. Is there anyone else who wants to put a nomination on the floor? Okay. Is there any discussion regarding this candidate as vice chair for the Gifted Advisory Committee? All right, we'll move forward again, also again with the roll call vote. As a matter of course, the motion is to approve Anna as the vice chair of the Gifted Advisory Committee. And first one on the block is Anna.
Yes.
Yeah. Emily Loda,
Yes.
Na Ren, Julie Kamensky,
Yes.
Terry Vangelos.
Yes.
Cheryl Burl Graves,
Yes.
Julie Stanley,
Yes.
Amy Guerin,
No.
Carrie Weatherspoon.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. So Anna is the vice chair of the Gifted Advisory Committee. Congratulations. And then our next order of business is, does anyone wish to nominate themselves or someone else as secretary for the Gifted Advisory Committee? This person prepares the agenda and the minutes and the membership list. No, the chair prepares the agenda, the minutes and the membership list. I'm so sorry.
Brenda,
Yes, ma'am.
this is Marty. I'm finally on here.
I didn't see you on. Did we miss you for voting? I'm so
Sure.
sorry.
Our internet's down, so I went on the phone, and so yeah, so I'm here.
Okay, great. You want to be the secretary?
No, thank you.
I tell you what, if the group agrees, we've got Diane serving as the secretary for this meeting. Why don't we bring it up again at the next meeting and do an email to the group, letting people know what we're looking for. Does anyone disagree with that motion, with that movement forward? Is that okay?
I agree.
I agree.
That's what we'll do. We'll take care of that later.
Yep, we agree.
There's on that, so I will come back to it. And your next agenda item is the scheduling of your meeting. The GAC bylaws state that you must meet at least 4 times in a year. This meeting does count as one of those 4 minimums. The role of the GAC is to review the gifted plan and determine the extent to which the previous year's plan was implemented. I open the floor for your discussion regarding the meeting calendar. Dan and I are both here to take notes so that we can provide that calendar once you've agreed on it.
I know we previously met on Tuesdays. Does anybody remember which Tuesday of the month we typically met on?
Second Tuesday.
We tried to not meet, if I may speak, not when the school board has their meetings. So
Okay.
on an alternate date.
And there's the 1st and the 3rd. Okay.
I mean, I guess I'll speak since no one else is volunteering. I know there's been discussion about having shorter meetings. At least leadership discussed that over the summer. My feeling is that it might be good to try to have more meetings, but shorter meetings. I don't know if people want to discuss that. Like say, oh yeah, go ahead.
I'm not sure that there's, a whole lot for us to do to really need more than 4 meetings. And I think we'll have more involvement if we can keep them pretty concise and limited. I think maybe some people are starting to get frustrated at the length and the commitment.
I agree. This is Terry. I would prefer to have, to try to keep it at 4 meetings and also keep our time limit to an hour.
This is Amy. I would agree. I think we can get it done in 4 meetings in an hour.
This is Marty. I agree too. And I feel like if there's something at a meeting that we need to really discuss, then we just run over. But if we plan to be more concise, then I think that'll happen.
When would you want those 4 meetings to take place? What month?
We did the first Tuesday of every, or I'm sorry, the second Tuesday of every month. Well, not every month, but we could pick 4 months.
Yep, I was just wondering, I've got that down and I was like, which month? And again, it's to review the gifted plan and determine the extent to which the previous year's plan was implemented.
I think everyone would appreciate if we skipped December. There's usually enough going on there. So
Agreed.
maybe
I guess I'm in the minority, but I just want to speak to the number of meetings again, before we come off that topic. We have a lot to do. I mean, as you know, last year we had 4 meetings and they were long meetings, and it was tight to get everything done. And I know we can be more concise, but in addition to what we had to do last year, this year we also need to look at new membership applications. We didn't do that last year as part of our 4 meetings. We need to look at new membership applications and recommend new members. I personally would like to have a chance to go over the bylaws, which we did not do last year, and they're completely new bylaws. So I think a lot of people are not maybe even familiar with them. So that's another thing that I personally would like to do.
Is that something that's really necessary to do in a meeting though?
No, but if we want to recommend changes to the school board, that would have to be GAC approved, like we'd have to do a vote on that. Like if the group wants to recommend changes, we need to take the time during a meeting to vote on it.
Can I ask a question? If we say 4 meetings and then we realize that we need an extra meeting, Brenda, can we just add that extra meeting? I mean, is it set in stone if we say 4?
Not set in stone. You can always add another meeting.
Okay, so maybe we should try to like minimize, and then if we need more, and I think it's also going to depend on what we're going to review, what we're going to look at. Is it the whole plan? Is it part of the plan? What are we going to do? And then that will determine how much time it will take, I think. I mean, yes.
Brenda, can I make a motion that we go ahead and vote and agree to have 4 meetings? This is Terry.
Absolutely. Yeah. So 4 meetings between now and June.
Can we say
Yes.
May? Between now and May?
That's fine. Yeah, I'm just working to provide clarity. I'm not trying to speak for anybody.
Yeah.
Yes, I will. This is Terry. So my motion is that we vote to have 4 meetings after this, 4 meetings by May.
Okay, does anyone second that motion?
I'll second it. It's Amy.
All right.
Marty too.
All right. All those in favor?
I
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that sounds great. So it sounds like we've got, the group definitely knows you want 4, but maybe not ready to set a full calendar for when those 4 might be. Do you want to talk about when the next meeting will be?
I would propose October 12th, I believe, if I'm looking at the calendar correctly. So if we do end up adding members, it would probably be nice for them to get on board sooner rather than later.
yes.
Anybody else have October 12th sounds okay?
Does that need
Yes.
a motion?
It can have one if you want it, but really if a majority of the group agrees to your meeting schedule, agrees to that meeting, then that's what we'll post as your meeting.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Diane, can you weigh in on this about the meetings in October?
I think we can have a meeting in October. I think that the committee will have to decide what their scope is going to be this year. When I do my report, I'll talk about what the staff has decided and how we're working towards the strategic plan. I think most of your work is in the springtime, because then we'll have any changes that'll have to be approved at that time. But I can work with an October deadline as well, and I'll do whatever the wish of the GAC.
So are there things that like the gifted department need to bring to the next meeting, I guess?
Yes.
Okay.
And I don't think we'll have any changes to the plan by October. But if you have other business or anything else you want me to bring to the committee, that would be fine. Whatever you decide.
So I do have a question. It's Marty, just because I don't understand for sure. But if we make changes to the plan, does that get looked at this year or next year? Because
Are you asking if the GAC makes changes to the plan or if?
no. If Gifted makes changes to the plan
I see.
as it is now, we make changes. Are we looking at the changes or are we looking at the plan as it stands today?
You would look at the plan for the section that you want to review, and then the role of the GAC is also to look at any changes. So if the gifted program moves forward with any changes, that needs to go to the GAC before I present those changes to the school board.
Okay, so what's the timeline on that? Like if we decided our scope of work at the next meeting, and then I'm making this up, let's just say the same thing we did last year for services. Okay, and then we made changes as a gifted staff, let's say in March or April. Would there be two things that the GAC has to look at? If you did, all right, if you don't make changes or we don't make changes to the same thing that the GAC is looking at, do they still have to approve those changes also? Does that make sense? I'm not saying this right.
If the changes are outside of the scope of work for the GAC, is the GAC
Yes,
still
thank
going to
you.
approve the changes?
Yes, ma'am, thank you.
I think Diane still has to bring them to the committee. Is that right,
Yeah.
Diane?
Correct.
Doesn't matter if they're within the scope of work or not.
Correct.
Okay. Do we still have to approve them?
I have to bring them forward. There's not an approval process, but you need to know about those changes.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to figure
Just
out.
like your recommendations, you all make recommendations as well. So those
So I feel like-
recommendations would still go forward.
Right. I feel like if we picked our scope of work earlier, we would have more time to work on it, and then we wouldn't have like 3-hour meetings to talk about it. You know what I'm saying? Like if we could bring it forward as early as possible and then give people time to think about it and then move forward, we should be able to meet our deadlines completely.
I think it's on the meeting for tonight.
Good, perfect. Yay.
We move it forward.
Okay.
And I'm prepared to tell you what the staff decided as well.
Perfect.
Sounds good. So I want to go back to October 12th. We need to set a time. And we need to decide if it's going to be in person or electronic. Oh, Emily, you've gone out. Can anybody else hear her?
No.
I
Okay.
heard her say, and that was it.
Yeah, I heard that. And then I saw her. She was definitely still talking, but something happened.
Uh-oh.
It's okay. I had troubles earlier. I think historically the committee has met at 6:30. Tonight's meeting was at 6. Any thoughts? Well, I guess in person or Zoom sometimes affects the time. Thoughts on in person versus Zoom?
She says this is Emily in the chat. As evidenced by my technology issues, I would like to have meetings.
In-person meetings. Is everybody okay with in-person meetings?
This is Terry. I have no preference really.
This is Amy. I prefer Zoom, but
This is Marty, and I think it depends on how everything goes with the whole COVID and all that. Right now, I think in person would be fine, but I'm not sure that's going to continue. So.
Well, we're talking just October 12th.
Oh, okay, good.
We're only talking about that one right now.
Well, I can tell you right now in my house, I have a husband who is very, very ill with COVID
Oh, I'm so
after
sorry.
having the shots and everything else. So,
I'm so sorry.
or the vaccine. So I think it'll be interesting to see what happens by October. So if we decide in person and then we want to go Zoom, can we switch it?
That's easier than going from Zoom to in-person.
I'm okay either way, but I just wanted to bring up that when I was asking this question about Zoom or in person for the August 31st meeting, there were 2 members who emailed me saying they weren't sure if they could continue coming to meetings if it was in person. So just to put that out there, for that reason, I prefer Zoom. For myself, it doesn't matter.
So this is Cheryl B. Graves. Wanted to find out, is there an opportunity for it to be both? For those people who don't feel comfortable, we always have a Zoom link, and then those of us who would like to be in person, we're able to be in person since that we do have the technology.
Yeah, that's interesting, Cheryl. That the committee used to do both. And I was one of the people who recommended that kind of discontinue, that everyone be in one place or the other, because it gets very, very difficult to manage the meeting, for everyone to hear each other, for votes to make sense, because people in person are voting at one time, and then you'll hear sort of the people who are remote, they've got just that smidge of a delay. But obviously it is the will of the committee, but those were just issues that we saw. Really a huge concern with trying to hear people for those who were in person compared to those who were remote was the biggest reason.
Okay.
I just feel like there's a better chance for efficiency if we can meet in person. We're not like stuck on like glitches and delays. People aren't splitting their attention between multiple things. But those are just my opinions.
I feel like we have a split room right now.
I think we do.
Can this be like a to be determined, 2 weeks ahead of time or a week ahead of time?
I just need to set it up at the school board meeting and make sure that we have the technology in the room that we need. So I'll just need a little bit of advance notice if you want to have it here at the building.
How much notice do you think, Diane? If we were to go ahead and block the room and make sure
I
it's
could go
available.
ahead and block the room as I did before, and then just release it if we need to do that.
Okay. What if we decide, what if the group, we, as if I'll be there, by October 1st? How's everybody feel?
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
All right, and a time.
6:30, like we used to.
Was that you, Emily? I couldn't hear.
Yeah, I was saying 6:30 like we used to do.
6:30 to 7:30?
Yes.
With that, you have your next meeting set. And I will now turn the meeting over to your chair, Emily Loda. Thank you for letting me be here tonight. And thank you for all that you're doing to support the work that's happening in our schools. It's so important and so integral. So I really appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brenda.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda.
So there are no speakers signed up for public address, so we will skip over that. Is that still correct? Okay. And do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the May 11th meeting as presented?
This is Anna. I'll move to approve the meeting minutes.
This is Marty. I'll second it.
Okay. Is there any discussion? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, so I'm assuming that was not a no and that the minutes have been approved. So now Ms. Knapp is going to provide an update from the gifted program and a presentation on the gifted plan.
So just thank you for giving me the opportunity to just make some brief statements. The staff is the same. this year and 21, 22, all the GRTs returned and they're in their same schools. So that's a positive. So we were able to jump right in to work right away and start meeting with our students and busy with our curriculum. So I was very happy. Even though Caitlin is now out on maternity leave, it was nice to have everybody come back right at the beginning for our meetings where we were putting everything together. Secondly, I just wanted to let you know that we've started our PD, or professional development. And so we had a first session with our elementary teachers, and that was very positive. The teachers came to Christiansburg Middle School, and since then, the GRTs provided lots of strategies, showed them the collection, a lot of materials. We had really good positive comments about that session. And for those that could not attend because of other scheduled meetings and things, I've had some other teachers reach out and are, again, using some of those materials. So very pleased that we were able to put that on our schedule at the beginning of the year. And that's all I have. Ms. Loda, you ready for me to do the next part?
Yes.
Okay, so that was very short. I changed what length I need to talk about the plan. This is the same presentation that I provided for you last year. And the only thing that we did is we're not having introduction of our GRTs. So that presentation, and I apologize, I didn't change it back from the August 31st date, but that just gives our staff list, the responsibility of the GAC, and then it breaks our plan down into parts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What the staff did at our organizational meeting was to look at the plan. We also had to look at some other big picture things. So we're looking at the strategic plan and where we were in all the pieces of the gifted plan. And so the part that the staff is going to work on, our piece this year, which is our scope of work, is going to be part 8. And part 8 says policies and procedures for access to programs and advanced courses. It's page 31, keep going, it's page 31 and through 35 of the plan. And the reason that we chose that, is if you look at some things about our English language learners, and then part of the recommendations last year, even from the GAC, were how we were looking at our advanced placement and our special programs and making sure that we have equity in choosing those programs and providing those programs across the division. The other part we focused on, or we discussed in our staff, was that equal educational opportunities. And the school board, over the last year, I don't even know the number. I know Brenda could possibly tell us, or maybe Ms. Graham, but they've made a lot of policy updates in the school board. And if you look at our plan between 31 and 35, there are probably 15 different policies listed. And the staff and I need to go back very soon and make sure that any changes that were made by the school board in MCPS policies are also changed in the plan. So that's why I was saying that there's probably a chance it might be minor language, but I will be bringing forward some changes in addition to big picture things that are under policies and procedures, but it just might be the word that the school board changed. So the staff, our scope of work is going to be part 8, and then that will include, again, all of those pieces that you see listed there. Any questions?
All right, is that it, Diane?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, yes. So now we have, sorry, I just lost track. Give me a second of where we were. So for the gifted advisory committee last year, we had a condensed timeline. We did not have quite as much time as we would normally like to have. And so we had to condense down what we could do to complete our work. And we chose to focus on the area of curriculum. So that was the area that we gave recommendations on. And would the group like to focus this year's review on a specific area or review the plan as a whole?
This is Terry. I think we should just stick to focusing on one area. And I think I'd like to propose maybe we look at section 8, since the gifted department is going to be focusing on that too. I think we'll be able to have a detailed report from them, and then that'll give us something. I mean, since they're already reviewing it, then it might be a good place for us to focus our work too.
Does anybody have any other? I agree that we should focus on one specific area. That is what was recommended to us by the state also.
I agree on focusing, this is Anna, I agree on focusing on one area. Personally, I think equity is something that's really important. There are a lot of aspects to that. So one is equity in access to advanced programs, also equity in identification, equity in access to like elementary access to services. And I think all of those are super important. I'm not saying we should focus on all of them this year, but I don't know what I'm saying, but I would like to focus on all of those eventually. Personally, I would feel like equity in service at an elementary level is something that I think would be a good focus, but I can understand if others want to follow what the gifted program is doing and focus on a different area.
Emily, if I may speak. I think that's part of what we're already doing. It's just not listed in this plan. Our responsibility as a staff is to look at all of ABC. So, and then equity has a little piece of this too. So we've already, again, our plan is a 5-year plan, but because strategic plan had 0 year and year 1 is equity, that's part of the work that'll fall under this report as well. So it's that work that we're doing and plan to do with curriculum, I think equity, and then I think it also falls into, I guess, Anna, what you were talking about is equity of programming. We're probably not quite at a point where we're going to change an ID process, but by 2 years, we might be ready to do something like that. But I'll be reporting that, to the school board as well.
But also equity in like service delivery. I think we mentioned last year when we talked about how, we would like to recommend having more GRTs, and whether we could put in our report something about how there's actually differences in the amount of time students at different elementary schools get in pullouts. So I think that part of that is an equity issue, and I don't know if that's something I would like to pursue or think about this year. I don't know if that would fall under what section 8.
So maybe we ask if there's anybody else that wants to weigh in on a specific section to focus on, and then we can vote.
Yes, I would agree with that. If anyone else has any thoughts they would like to share.
This is Amy. I suggest we follow what the gifted department's doing. It's just going to be, we'll provide you with the information we all need.
All right, is there anyone else? All right, would anyone like to make a motion? Or do we need to make a motion? Sorry, Brenda, I might still need a little bit of help from you. Do we need a motion in order to decide on that? I'm assuming we do, correct?
I think if you want one for clarity, you can have one. It sounds like a majority of the committee is in agreement, but it never hurts to have one for clarity.
Okay, so for clarity purposes, would someone like to make a motion on what we would like to focus our work on?
This is Amy. I'll make a motion that we follow what the gifted department's doing by looking at part 8 of the gifted plan.
And this is Terry. I'll second that motion.
Any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
Emily, if I may, Diane, is that enough information for you to complete the scope of work? Okay, sounds great. Perfect.
So Diane, will you fill out that scope of work? Is that something that you fill out, or is that something that?
I'll do that. I'll fill that out and share that with you, Ms. Loda,
Okay.
and then make sure it has all the appropriate words there on it and it's what we voted on.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Before you leave this issue, the scope of work currently, the draft currently also says that we would like to review the gift advisory committee bylaws, and if so decided by the GAC, recommend changes for the school board to review. So I assume that's still going to be included.
Do we need to discuss bylaws? I feel like we just did those and we spent way too long on them.
We did, I mean, 2 years ago, the bylaws were discussed, and then everything we discussed was scrapped, and the school board approved new bylaws for us that were different from the ones that the GAC had.
Well, I wasn't on the committee at that time, so I came into the committee with the current bylaws that were given to us by the school board, and I think also weren't they reviewed by the lawyer? I think that we need to. I don't know why we would need to change that, and since we've only had them in place for a year.
There are some places, I went over the bylaws very carefully, the ones that the school board has approved. And there are places where the wording in the bylaws differs from what is in the Code of Virginia and the regulations governing educational services for gifted students from the Virginia DOE. And those differences in phrasing are what concerns me. It's just some small changes that I noticed where what we have doesn't match what the state of Virginia has put out for gift advisory committees. So, I mean, so that's why, to me, I do think we should take a look at it.
Is it
The other, oh, sorry, I have
Yes,
one other point, is that everyone knows that we have trouble getting a quorum. And this is something we could address in bylaws. We could ask that maybe our quorum be I don't know, lower, or ask that if people, if there's someone who expresses that they are not interested in being on the committee, that member could be more quickly, I don't know, removed, where they wouldn't have to resign, but they could just say like, I'm no longer interested. And then that person does not count as a person we need to account for when we calculate the quorum. Just putting it out there.
So this is Terry again. I'm wondering if maybe somebody more official than us needs to weigh in. I don't know, Brenda or Marty Graham. Is this, I'm not sure where we need to go from here. I think all of us on the committee have been given a copy of the bylaws. And so anyone else who has questions or issues has had the opportunity to speak up. What do we need to do at this point?
Review of the bylaws would take a majority of the gifted advisory committee to approve that review, to add it to an agenda. So it sounds like Anna's talking about adding it to your scope of work or adding it to an agenda. That requires a majority of the committee to approve.
So it sounds like this may also be something that a lot of people haven't read them and might need to review them to see if they have an opinion on it, one way or the other. That could be like brought up at a later date.
I was worried that it could not be brought up at a later date because I was told that if we do want to review them and possibly, if the committee so decides, suggest changes to the school board, that has to be on our scope of work. That's what I was told by an administrator last year.
And I think you would revise your scope of work and resubmit it. I think if it's something that the committee wants to move forward with, that's okay. But I think that we don't need to force the committee to rush things.
I would suggest if people are interested in doing this or possibly interested, put it on the scope of work. We don't have to do it just because it's on the scope of work, but it would allow us to do it.
I guess I was under the mindset of I'd like to see us just focus unless there is something in the bylaws that prevents us from being able to do the two things that we need to do, that we basically just focus on the review and recommendations as of right now. All right. Anyone else want to weigh in? Feel like I'm teaching on meat again. Start calling on you. Give me an opinion. Can we move on from that? We've voted. We can move on from that now. Okay. The next thing on the agenda is the GAC membership update. And I know Anna has emailed some information out about this. We have lost a few members. We had one student graduate. We've had another student who has not officially resigned. Is that correct? But it's not really.
We're going to go ahead and count it.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, and we've had another member resign. I really should have printed this off, so I apologize. And I believe someone's like district changed. Is that correct? At this point.
This is Carrie Weatherspoon.
Yes.
My district has changed. So I represented Eastmont and I had a child in high school and middle school, and the high school graduated and the middle schooler is now in high school, but we have moved to Blacksburg. So she is in Blacksburg.
Okay.
So I would be representing Blacksburg versus Eastern Montgomery. And so just again, I know we want to have equal membership and it being distributed appropriately. And so realizing that I'm coming into one that's well represented, Just wanted to put that out there, but, and also Eastern Montgomery Strand really needs to be represented as well. So
The student we lost was from Eastern Montgomery also, correct?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Someone
And
from
I know that we lost
Christiansburg.
a Christiansburg student also.
And I just want to point out, and I'll make sure I update the membership list and resubmit it with this information from Miss Weatherspoon, but Miss Church was a Blacksburg representative. So if the committee is okay with it, Miss Weatherspoon slides right into the vacancy that exists there without a problem, and just leaves you with some EMHS to fill.
And I am now, I don't know, well, I'll table that conversation for another day. Okay, so that's our membership update. So we have had some shifts and we've had some losses. And so now we need to discuss our recruitment and how and if we want to fill any holes that we have in our membership now, specifically probably Eastern Montgomery and students. So those are the areas that we have more of a need than anything. I know Diane sent out some people who have already applied. You know, if we need to more specifically target those areas, what we want to do to try and recruit more members.
Hi, Emily. It's Amy. I'm the GRT down in the Eastmont Strand, and so I kind of have a concern about students on this committee. When I started looking at who I might want to invite or look at, I just kind of really had a hard time because I'm not sure I want a student on the committee because of what has happened previously and kind of the program being discussed. And this is something that those kids love and they enjoy taking part in. And I'm not sure that they need to hear all of this other stuff that's going on. So I really had a hard time trying to find someone. And as a parent, I'm not sure I would personally want my child listening to some of this stuff. So that's just something to throw out there.
Amy, are you referring to kind of the negative feelings? Is that what you mean specifically?
Yeah, probably. Just kind
Okay.
of, I'm not sure that's what kids need to hear about their program.
Right.
I believe
reached out to a lot of students. I reached out to students even in Blacksburg. I reached out to Christiansburg students, and I reached out to principals and assistant principals in the Eastmont Strand. And so at this point, I even had, I think one of the names on the list was an assistant principal, and said that she would be interested to even be able to speak for students because she can view sort of what's happening by having relationships with those students in middle school. But that's of course not a student, but that would be somebody from the Eastmont Strand.
has anyone spoken with cluster teachers? I feel like that's one area we could have more representation.
We lost a cluster teacher from Blacksburg, and we've replaced that with a parent. And that's another thing we just sort of have to be cautious of, is that we, I think I had a chart from the last one that said how many parents, how many teachers, and we don't want to be too administrator heavy either. How many, like, an administrator, I'm not talking about MCPS, I'm talking about principals, assistant buildings. And that's important because they know their buildings. So it's nice to have those building administrators.
Are we required to have students?
We try to find students, but
Because I was thinking that was one of the demographics that we had to represent. But I also have a concern. We have no males on this committee. So I think that is maybe something that we could try to recruit also. So just my thoughts.
I do want to share with you guys that, just a reminder, Carl Pauly, he is on the committee. I know he's school board, but he is on the committee, and he was not able to join us this evening. His dad's not been well, so that's why he's not here tonight.
Okay, so sorry, we have only one male on our committee. He might like some company.
I sort of agree with you, Emily. It can be a somewhat different perspective.
Emily, do you want me to think of?
Am I understanding correctly? If we don't have students and we don't have a representative from each district, are we still okay to continue our work?
Yeah, you just note on your membership list where you're out of alignment, right? So you also don't have representation. I'm trying to remember, I don't have that printed off in front of me, but I think from American Indian, Pacific Islander, right? You don't have representation there. So that shows as a 0, and then it just shows as a notation, how is the group working to fix that? So that's what it is. It doesn't stop the committee from moving forward.
And I think what happens is we're looking at that demographic or ratio of Auburn, Blacksburg, Christiansburg, and Eastern Montgomery. And if we move forward with, I believe, what I checked off today, we'll have 6 from Blacksburg. Is that correct? Because of the move from Cary. And then 5 from Christiansburg, 1 from Eastern Montgomery, and 3 from Auburn. Does that sound, Emily, does that sound right? I moved 1 Eastern Montgomery. I moved 1 Eastern Montgomery to Blacksburg, 1 Blacksburg off with 1 more back on. So that stayed at 6. We lost the student in Christiansburg, which moved that from 6 to 5. Auburn stayed the same, but Eastern Montgomery went from 3 to 1.
I believe that sounds correct. Yes. Okay.
So I think the demographics, if we took that to the board and said I think the last time we were sort of way out with one area having so much more than the other, we really need to concentrate on that one specific area.
Yes. And I believe that we had sorry, hold on, let me check my email here real quick.
The list that we received, I don't have it in front of me because I'm on my phone. Did we have anybody? Okay. I was asking if we have anybody that's from some of these underrepresented sections.
If I may, there's a parent from Auburn. There's a gifted resource teacher from Blacksburg, a parent 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 from Blacksburg, and a parent from Blacksburg. I don't know by the names. I think there's a mixture of male and female in those parents from Blacksburg. We have another parent from Christiansburg that would like to be considered. And then we have a parent and an administrator from Eastern Montgomery.
So I think we're actually fine. I don't know that we need to worry too much about recruitment at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like the parent from the Auburn district, do we go ahead and I don't know what you call it, invite them to be a part of the committee?
You mean Auburn or Eastern Montgomery?
Auburn, sorry.
I think we didn't lose anyone from Auburn. So I think for right now, we need to leave those numbers the way that they are.
But we only have 1 representative from Auburn, so.
No, from Eastern Montgomery. And we had 2 applicants. So we've had, we can fill those holes. And can we just, maintain numbers?
The committee is okay. What would happen, I think, is that Emily would reach out and ask those people if they want to serve. And if they say yes, those names will be brought to the committee on October 12th.
Okay.
Once the committee officially approves those names, you submit those names to the school board and let them know that you've updated your membership list.
Did you say
That
the
plan sound okay?
committee, like we have to officially
You do.
approve it? Okay, so is that a situation where like we need to go to closed session next time, or do we just say, hey, we approve them and we move forward?
Well, it sounds like the committee really agrees with you moving forward with the names that they've already seen. So closed session isn't necessary. You, as the chair, would reach out and invite them to participate. They can come as soon as the October meeting. They just can't participate until they're officially approved. And then it would just be an agenda item to approve those names, and you'd put the names in there.
Okay.
Because at that point, they've accepted the motion, excuse me, and the approval is more of a formality. It sounds like everybody is in agreement to invite them. So no need for a closed session. And then you would submit those names to the board. I'll help you with that piece. It's super easy.
All right, well, that is the last item on our agenda. So it sounds like we've settled that, and I adjourn this meeting at 7:07.
Woohoo!
Thanks, Emily.
Yay, shortest one ever.
Shocking.